Clearly, there is a shadow market in parking spaces that needs to be investigated as well, out of the last question. So our third and final group we're having out here is the Boogie Down booth. When that team is ready, please come on out. The home team.
My name is Kerry McLean, and I am from Whitco in the Bronx, and I'm joined here today by Travieso, who is a participatory design fellow at the Design Trust for Public Space, and Neil Gagliardi from the New York City Department of Transportation will join us a little bit later during the Q&A. So we're here to tell you about a signature site-specific project that ignites a community and reflects the creative spirit of the community. It's the result of our partnership with the community, with the Design Trust for Public Space, with the New York City Department of Transportation and others through an initiative called Under the Elevated, which is about activating space under the city's elevated structures. Here's the Boogie Down booth. So the Bronx has been, for a long time, from the 1900s through the 1960s, a magnet for diverse groups of immigrants, from Eastern Europeans and Italians to Puerto Ricans and West Indians. This convergence of cultures caused different forms of music to be created and to be cultivated in the Bronx. Doo-wop, Latin jazz, jazz, salsa, and hip-hop. Artists as diverse as Thelonious Monk, Tito Puente, and Grandmaster Flash all found their beats in the Bronx, inside and outside in the streets. Then things began to change. The oil and fiscal crises of the 1970s really hit the South Bronx hard. City services like police and sanitation halted, unemployment raged, landlords burned their buildings for the insurance money, and the population fled. When President Carter, seen here visiting the Southern Boulevard area in the 1970s, came, it was a devastated area. And over 20,000 live music seats that once dotted areas like Southern Boulevard were lost. Today, the neighborhood is growing again, but the evidence of the decades of neglect is still impacting residents. One challenge is the overhead train, which is loud, it's slow, and it's just plain noisy. In addition, the elevated infrastructure is very dark. It causes the neighborhood to be very dark, and even in the daytime, community residents do not feel safe walking on the street, which hurts local businesses, limits the eyes on the street, and raises perceptions of crime. To reinfuse the neighborhood with vitality, activity, and music, we opened the Bronx Music Heritage Center Lab on the Boulevard to bring people back to the neighborhood through music events around their culture. Then we asked the Design Trust and the Department of Transportation to help us creatively address the lingering challenges that I spoke about earlier. Chat will tell us a little bit more.
So Under the Elevated is a project of the Design Trust in partnership with DOT. And the project brought together community leaders, architects, planners, cultural groups to really come up with strategies to enhance the spaces under elevated transit infrastructure. As you can see here in this map, we looked at sites all over the city. And Southern Boulevard specifically, gave us the opportunity to test out design ideas, about how we can improve spaces, how we could combat the loud noise and the negative perceptions we have of elevated trains. So we started building on the work that Whitco did in the community by asking the question, what do you want under the elevated? And we had a community design workshop on the street. And some of the things people told us were, we want better lighting, we want more trees, art, beautification, seating while waiting for the bus, more businesses, hip-hop, salsa. So we took this information combined with prior feedback that Whitco had gotten from hundreds of community members, and we developed a Boogie Down booth. So this diagram here shows the Boogie Down booth is a temporary installation that responded to the things we heard. It provides seating for people waiting for the bus, lighting to make the area feel more hospitable and safe, and music that's derived from the Bronx to really mask the noise of the train. So the Boogie Down booth was installed at the corner of Southern Boulevard and Freeman Street, right by the train station, in July of 2014, and located here at this local transit hub, right by the bus stop and the train station, means that there are always eyes on the booth. And because there's seating, it encourages people to sit, linger, and connect with one another. And also the bright blue color, the vivid blue color brightens up that corner. We also incorporated text panels designed by graphic design fellow Neil Donnelly that tells the story about the rich musical heritage of the Bronx, and also it provides the playlist that the Bronx music that's being played in the booth. We also installed solar panels on top that power the LED lights and also the directional speakers that are playing the music. So the music that's being played is not only covering the noise of the train, it also is an opportunity to spark interest and also promote the ingenuity and innovations, cultural, musical innovations that are going on in the Bronx. So let me show you how the speakers work.
So the Boogie Down booth has given artists like Circa 95, seen here, the opportunity to gain more exposure for their music and for themselves. And community residents are also affirming how the Boogie Down booth has given them more reasons to have pride in the neighborhood's history, and in the neighborhood's future.
Good, nice. Yeah. Definitely brightens up the space, and it also provides a seating area for the elderly.
So what's next? Well, WEDCO would love to see Boogie Down booths all over the Boogie Down Bronx. Doesn't that make sense? So we're starting first, though, with two, one of them being at the future site of the Bronx Music Heritage Center in Melrose. And we really see the booths as an opportunity to engage communities and partners meaningfully around context-specific design solutions that can respond to some common community needs. We invite you to visit bronxmusic.org to find out more and to also support the building of more booths by donating. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Circa 95 performing at the Boogie Down booth launch this summer.
Come on up.
Now, Neil Gagliardi is going to join us from DOT, the Director of Urban Design.
Great. All right. Thank you for joining us, all three of you. Thank you for this. Any opening commentary from our panelists here? Questions?
Well, I keep asking the same question. So the about the money, I'm curious. One, what's the cost for building each booth? And then also, is there a model? Do you want advertising? Do you not want advertising? Sponsorship? What's the model for funding it?
So the projected cost was $18,000. It's cost a little bit more than that, probably in the low 20s. And in terms of advertising, for sure. Actually, we partnered with the Southern Boulevard Merchant Association, and there are some business owners who have promotions in the booth. There are about 2 or 3 business owners who are able to promote their businesses as a part of this effort.
I think that this type of placemaking around transit is super cool, and I love these types of projects. And so I'm curious, though, it seems like you had this very site-specific idea for this space. So do you mean then, if you want to do this across the Bronx, that you want all of them to be Boogie Down booths, or do you want to use different types of cultural institutions around the area at every different site?
Well, the Bronx has a rich legacy of music, and that's what inspired this project. We see music as an opportunity to activate community and also to just share what is or should be the collective memory of everyone about the different music forms that came from the Bronx. So we see there being site-specific responses in different neighborhoods maybe one neighborhood doesn't have an issue with lighting, but there is another issue that has to do with, safety on the streets that the designer would be able to incorporate into the Boogie Down booth.
I want to piggyback on the question about revenue. Do you feel that in the long term that these will be sustainable through advertising, and do you fear that they become, if you're dependent on advertising, that they're viewed by the public then as just billboards that happen to have some extra features? And I'm just wondering how you sort of weigh those things, or do you feel that this is something that is more of a charitable, something that's being provided to the community and should be supported by foundations or government or other sources?
It's more the latter. The advertisements that are there right now, it's only 2 or 3, and there are 20 songs that people can listen to. And they're not paid advertisements. They're community members and businesses who are just communicating about the projects that they have.
Right, it was a way to, connect to the Southern Boulevard Merchants Association, which was also kind of a community collaborator on the project. And to, one of the things that we heard during the community workshops was just increasing kind of pedestrian traffic along Southern Boulevard. Like Kerry said, it gets dark and there's this kind of perception of crime. So it was a way to say, hey, there's this pet store just down the block, check out this restaurant. So it was more along a way to kind of connect to the community, not necessarily a revenue kind of generating.
I do want to mention, as a city agency, we're looking at it for citywide applications. Advertising is a major issue. This is the public realm. This is the public right-of-way, and I think that's an issue which reinforces what you just said. But its application citywide, borough-wide, that's what we learned about it. Its application around a column, not touching it, was a major issue. So all of that fits in with the cultural, contextual aspect.
I mean, good for DOT for approving it. I know that's not easy.
No, it wasn't.
And what are the regulatory issues for expanding this?
I'm sorry, could you?
What are the regulatory issues for expanding it?
Well, I mean, I think the first step is really learning from it. Apart from the message, from the cultural, the contextual, what did work? It does provide lighting. That's a major issue citywide for the 700 miles of elevated infrastructure, providing seating. I think the regulatory is really working with the multiple jurisdictions, and I think that's what we learned here. I will say in my own career, I never got an approval from the MTA for doing anything near it, and we did for this. And one of the things working with you was really doing a light touch. We made sure we didn't touch the column. It can easily be removed, and I think that was a significant element of it that really, is something to build on.
And I
we
know
did have permits and a number of aspects that we had to work out with that, and that was.
And how'd you get past the amplified sound regulations?
Well, the sound's actually, like you saw in that video, it's a directional speaker. So it's kind of amazing when you're standing, just 6 feet away from it, you really can't hear it. Actually, a lot of people are like, just turn it up, turn it. I'm like, whoa, it's actually all the way up. You have to stand right below it, and it's actually a lot louder. So that was actually a design decision because we didn't want to disturb anybody around there. So you just have to stand right below it, and it sounds like it's right there.
I think for like a lot of the issues that people have about that site, right, it was around like lighting and the perception of safety. A big part of that is just having people around. So, you've just installed this. Obviously, all the photos and clips you have are of recent installation. How are you going to maintain and continue to program this over time?
So one of the things that we do is we have occasional community events. We've had a couple so far. One that was a community launch, and another that was a more kind of official launch. And so, we've been talking to different organizations in the neighborhood, cultural as well as other community organizations, about activating the space. Since it is located at the bus stop and the train station, it's a natural attractor of people. People naturally are there anyway, waiting for the bus. Now they have somewhere to sit. They have a reason to linger. They have a reason to connect in ways that they otherwise would not. There's a green cart vendor that's right nearby, so that's also supporting his business. So we really see it as a holistic way to kind of capture people where they are and just help them to linger.
And the other thing is, we mentioned it in the presentation, but this is meant as a test for more permanent solutions down the line. So this is part of, under the elevated. So this was kind of like this test that's going to test out some of the policy ideas and design ideas that might be how can we expand it and make it more of a long-term thing. So this is the first phase. This one piece was a temporary installation, and we're learning from it. We're seeing like what's working, what's not working, what needs to be tweaked.
What specifically are you measuring about it?
Well, I think one of the things that we heard, and I think this is kind of a universal thing that we keep hearing about spaces under elevated transit infrastructure, is that it's dark. There's this perception of being unsafe and loud. So I think our approach was taking this as a kind of prototype for spaces under elevated trains, but also looking at it in a very specific way. So the Bronx Music Heritage Center lab is just down the street, and that was kind of our collaboration. Was like, well, what if we use music as a way to mask the sound? Obviously, we can't change the train and the screeching sound just that way. So how can we use other elements? So that kind of first. And it actually kind of, it won't mask the sound completely, but it kind of distracts people, and you're not really paying attention to this like screeching train. So that lesson could be applied in other ways in a kind of larger context. Also providing seating right by the bus stop, and this is actually a widened sidewalk, so there's the opportunity to do that. And lighting, like Neil mentioned.
Lighting is significant. I think the lighting so far has been, at a scale that is pedestrian, and this provided that, and I think that was a real comment that we heard and we want to build on. The nexus with the train station was important, and talking about activation. That was also, the sidewalk widening was part of an under the L bus stop L DOT effort, so it was kind of creating the foundation for something like this to occur, and I think that is an important part of activating it and locating these.
Question, it's obviously getting cold outside, and that you guys haven't gone through a winter. I'm wondering, are you going to keep these up through the winter? Do you have fears about that? And I guess a two-part question. The other part is, are there liability issues? I don't know who actually owns these, and I can imagine that freaking out a lot of lawyers, and so I just wonder how that all sort of would potentially play out.
Yeah, me, right? There are liability issues. It went through, you asked Robert, the jurisdictions and the procedure. It went through an extensive review with WEDCO's lawyers and ours. That's a major issue. And I think, we try to streamline that process and make that happen. This is a temporary installation. It's going to continue through November. What did we extend it to? November?
Yeah.
But I think, in looking at this in future applications, how can we make this more of a permanent, viable furnishing that could continue through the winter as well. So I think that's one of the questions we want. Yep. It's remarkably well maintained, thanks to you. But I think people have had a sense of pride, and that's been part of the real test. It was not vandalized, and that's a great result of it, and encouragement to do more of it.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. One more round of applause for Boogie Down Booth.